Hey guys, thanks for joining us on the Lies, Lies, Lies podcast. I'm Mia.
And I'm AJ.
And our segment is called The Lying Lovers, the exploration of deception in romantic relationships.
Throughout this session, participants were asked a series of questions through a pre-recording in-person interview with us for confidentiality purposes.
With that being said, various types of relationships will be explored, including monogamous, biracial, and single individuals for a new perspective.
We will then examine whether there is a pattern with views towards lies and deception in romantic relationships.
In today's society, we've been introduced to a whole new plethora of outlets for people to communicate and meet on, whether it's social media sites like Instagram and Facebook or dating sites like Tinder and Grindr. Dating and relationships have just evolved into a whole new dynamic that has probably changed the dating game for future generations to come.
While we may still need the traditional monogamous relationships, the world around us has become more inclusive of gay, interracial, polyamorous couples, and much more. With that being said, let's get started. So moving on, we have two sets of couples. One, we have Nadia and Charlie, who have been together for 10 years. They are an interracial heterosexual couple. Our second couple is Jude and Emma. They have been together for 2 years and 3 months. They are a LGBTQ plus, specifically lesbian relationship.
In addition, we also have 4 individuals. We have Maria, who's a 24-year-old single mother of 3. She is recently out of an 8-year relationship. We also have 25-year-old Elena, who has been single for about a year. And prior to that, she was in a very toxic relationship for about 3 years. We also have Dora, who's 37. She's a single mother of 3. And I use the word single very loosely because she has been in a committed relationship for about 14 years, but has recently been struggling with the dynamics of lying and deception. Lastly, we also have Earl, who's a 37-year-old gay male struggling with monogamous relationships and infidelity. He's been single for 3 years, and his previous relationship only lasted for about 6 months. But, I think it's really interesting how Earl is still battling with lying and infidelity and monogamy at such an age, because in the gay community, studies have indicated before that gay couples who are non-monogamous can show good levels of relationship satisfaction.
It is interesting how you say that, because Earl has been single for 3 years. Although he has only dated for a relatively short amount of time, it seems to me that he's taking the process to work on himself and to heal. So we see that a lot in his recording on, especially highlighting his healing journey. And we start to see that a lot, especially when we were listening back to his audio and talks of self-care and self-love, which we will going to be able to pick up on in part 2 of our podcast. But for now, we're specifically speaking about the lies and deception that he has experienced in his previous relationship.
AJ, one thing that really kind of stood out to me about Earl's interview was a piece where he mentioned the fact that his ex had brought up possibly bringing in a third person or just getting involved in polyamory, because he ends up describing how he was sort of blinding himself to the question. Ultimately, he just wasn't ready for what his partner was saying without necessarily saying. It was like Earl wanted to pretend like if he just didn't pay attention, it wasn't there kind of thing, which is something we see in this clip.
So, yeah, it wasn't like majorly lying about anything else, but probably just the fact that he didn't tell me he was talking to other guys on the apps and about an open relationship. It was honest, but I think at that time I didn't take the information well.
So just by looking back on Earl's clip, it makes me empathize with him, because him looking back at the situation and me putting myself in his shoes, it wasn't as stable, or it wasn't as secured as he hoped it would have been, you know. According to recent research, civil unions have a positive effect on relationship status, you know. And with me emphasizing the way that he felt in those times, I can't imagine or even fathom what he felt when he noticed that his partner wanted more than just him, or even talking to other people behind his back.
You know, overall, a lot of Earl's interview really just showed me that gay men do face many more challenges in a sense. There's one particular article that found that gay men were exposed more to sexual stigmas and even more to social influences compared to lesbians, which I think is really interesting, because previous research has also shown that gay couples tend to have more sex at the initial stage of a relationship, whereas lesbians are typically a little more exclusive. And it's not that they value relationships in a different way, but I guess they approach it with a little more tender love and care, which I wonder if that just comes naturally from being a woman and being empathetic, or just being a little more reserved at the beginning of a relationship. But that brings me over to our next set of participants, which were Emma and Jude. And so Emma and Jude are basically our youngest set of participants. Emma is 20 years old, Jude is only 19, but although they're really young, they have a lot of mutual respect, and their relationship holds a lot of maturity. They've been together for 2 years, but they seem to communicate very well, and they seem to sort of have this little back and forth game that they've created where they lie to each other just to see if the other one will believe it. And so they've made sort of a game out of something really just known to be dark, because who wants to be lied to?
Yeah, and I see exactly what you're saying, and I wonder if that is equivalent to them being young, which wants to make them play like those games. And not to mention, this one article shows that there is a lying frequency that was higher among women, also among younger people, and as well as female to female interactions. So that can possibly be attributed to on perhaps why they play these such games, because they don't take it as seriously. And not to mention, when we interviewed both Emma and Jude, each of them had stated that they trust one another within the relationship. And it's just all fun and games according to their actions. Interestingly enough, we were able to capture both stating that they playfully lie to each other. Take a look.
Are you able to notice a pattern or change when your partner lies? For example, her tone of voice, her body language, or facial expressions?
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. She is she is such a bad liar when it comes to serious things, but sometimes she'll just blatantly lie, just for fun. It's it's not any there's no maliciousness. Is that the word? Maliciousness behind it?
Yeah.
It's just she'll tell me a fact. Did you know that elephants can grow up to 50 million feet? And I'm for real? She's no. But
and this was Emma's response.
To lie to each other for fun, or say fun facts that aren't true for fun, and be can you believe that? And they'll be yeah. I'll be well, I just made it up. So she turns over to me, and she's pretending to be upset, and she was I have this scar on my hand. And I looked at it, and it was clearly just a welt from laying on an edge of something. And I was why did you even try to come up with stuff like that? And she's such a bad liar, because she looks like she's acting 100%. She She looks like a Disney Channel actor when she's lying.
You know, there's almost something ironic about the dynamic that Emma and Jude have introduced into their relationship compared to Nadia and Charlie's relationship. Because if we take a look at Nadia and Charlie, you know, of course, they're a heterosexual couple, but they deal a little more with the complexities of lying and deception in their relationship in a whole different form. You know, while Emma and Jude are sort of making light out of something that's not typically acceptable, I wonder if they're also refining their ability to detect lies and to see if that will, I guess, sort of boost up each other's sense of trust, or if at the end that's just gonna inevitably hinder the relationship.
And actually, now that you state that, we see that in the relationship of Nadia and Charlie, when both Nadia and Charlie stated that white lies are not a problem. However, there were frequent big lies towards the beginning of their relationship, but it had declined as they grew older. Nadia being 25 and Charlie 24, they have been together for about 10 years. They are married. And to put it this way, if we were to make a comparison between Emma and Jude's relationship and Nadia and Charlie's relationship, we can definitely see that one takes lies less seriously than the other, which can be seen by the differences in ages.
Yeah, and not to cut you off or anything, but I also like the idea of us comparing Jude and Emma to Charlie and Nadia, in the sense that we're seeing from both recordings and just being able to reinforce the idea that research has shown in the past how same-sex couples have higher satisfaction levels compared to heterosexual couples. With that being said, another thing that I also liked about Nadia's recording was just how relatable she was, in the way that she's able to identify certain cues in her partner when he's lying. She also brings up some good points about this learned behavior throughout his childhood, and how she likes to teach him a lesson when he lies to her, because I've personally done that before. You know, it's not really learned, but at the end of the day, you're still reinforcing the fact that, hey, I don't like being lied to. So if you don't want to be lied to, don't lie to me.
Yeah, especially since, like, you know that your partner is lying to you and that you can just sense it, whether it's like body language, facial expression, tone of voice. You know, it's kind of like you want to give them a taste of your own medicine, in my personal opinion, especially if you're someone that doesn't lie as often as, let's say, as an average person. So in the next couple of clips showcased, we have Nadia, who elaborates more on how her partner lies, whereas when conducting the interview, we feel that her partner exhibited some traits while conducting this interview with us. Take a look.
Yes, I can tell when he's lying, 100%. I don't know how to explain it. He just has this face that he makes when he lies. And he also, I don't know why, he kind of likes to, like, cough, or, like, fake hiccup whenever he's lying for some reason.
Whenever I've had my partner lie, what comes to my mind is anger. And, well, I don't like lies either. I know nobody likes lies, but I try to see why the other person could lie.
There's just something about that clip that I am really able to appreciate. And I don't know if it's just because Nadia was able to hit the nail right on the head, or if it's the fact that Charlie's not necessarily lying. It sounds to me more like he's probably buying himself some time to either answer the question correctly, or if it's just kind of like a I know we hear a sort of forced cough or sneeze, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's lying. Maybe he's just, I don't know, deceiving, not necessarily lying, if that makes sense.
That absolutely does make sense, just to where like he's not really stating anything. It's more of so like whether he's withholding information or he knows that some sort of information might get him in trouble, so he may not just like elaborate more on that. So with him buying himself some time before he answers a question, I can see that playing out as a form of deception, not necessarily a lie.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems like everyone is just lying for the purpose of avoiding punishment. I know that they're not necessarily wanting to hurt the other person from what it sounds like. It's just like in Charlie's case, we're seeing him take his time to choose his words correctly or just carefully so that he doesn't upset his partner. Because at the end of the day, when we lie to someone, we're mostly doing it out of a place that's altruistic in the sense that you don't want to hurt someone. But is it really altruistic if you're also looking out for your best interest? I'm not saying that I would want my partner to lie to me for the sake of altruism, nor is it okay. But I can see where it is understandable for people to feel the need to lie.
Yeah, and personally, to an extent, there are lies I notice telling people, but they're not like the obvious lies that are dramatic and big. It's more so of like benevolent lies, like white lies, and it usually comes habitually without even thinking about it. So I can empathize as to why people may have that response, whether it is automatic or whether it's something to which they don't want to hurt the other person or their feelings.
But one problem I'm having trouble understanding is if we lie for the sake of altruism or to not hurt someone that we love, then why put ourselves in a situation to even have to worry about hurting someone's feelings or having to cover up a lie or keep track of a story? Like, why put myself in a situation that might create some sort of snowball effect where one thing becomes bigger and bigger, and then my partner just completely is affected wholly by it, because then their truth bias becomes affected, and then there goes the trust. Then it's easier for certain assumptions to be made, and it just becomes even more problematic.
And Mia, it's great that you brought up the idea around truth bias, because we start to notice some of those tendencies picked up in Dora's interview, where Dora states how white lies could welcome bigger lies, meaning if one is accepting of healthy white lies, they should be welcoming of unhealthy white lies. So it seems to me that the truth bias comes into effect whenever she picks up that her partner is lying to her. Therefore, there is not much trust that is established within the partnership.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that was noted about Dora's interview was how she's already gotten to the point in her relationship where she expects the lies. She doesn't look for them. She doesn't go out of her way. She doesn't dissect anything that her partner is telling her. She's just already expecting to be disappointed, which is almost sad to hear, because when we're little and you get in trouble by your parents, a spanking is bad. Yeah, getting in trouble sucks. But to hear your parents say that they're disappointed in you, it's like, ugh, like you just got hit really hard. Like it's like a gut-wrenching feeling just to hear that somebody's been disappointed by your actions. So it kind of sucks, to hear that in today's society, people are already automatically expecting to be lied to, even for a couple like Dora and her partner who have been together for 14 years. It just goes to show that no one is really safe from what lies and deception can do. In fact, it's almost painful to listen to the hurt in her voice as she explains to us what her relationship has withered down to. You can listen to that in this clip.
I've come to expect, him lying or him gaslighting or just things like that. Like I said, we're going through a tough stage at this time. I don't think that I'm looking to catch him in lies, but somehow it always tends to happen. I've told him, if I can expect something, is that there's going to be some type of meltdown here in the next couple of months, and then we'll be good for a little while, and then it's like a cycle right now.
I agree with you, Mia, and just by listening to that snippet of what Dora was talking about as her response of not being able to tell what her partner lies about and whatnot, being in this constant loop of being good versus being not so good in a partnership, it can often leave the person feeling vulnerable and confused. And quite similarly, we have another participant who talks about trust, specifically saying that once trust is broken, it is not given back. This is Maria, who was in an 8-year relationship and who has been separated for about 2 months already. She had a lot of interesting things that she talked about in her relationship. And to consider this, she felt that she was self-blinded to deceptive body language and facial expressions from her partner. And not only that, but she was also willing to stay even after being lied to, and claimed that she was lied to by her partner for selfish reasons. One of the selfish reasons being that he had went behind her back and cheated on her and lied to her about infidelity. So in other words, the relationship had ended because of that.
Man, I swear our podcast should have came with a trigger warning, because even as we're listening to Maria's background and her interview, I was able to recall past memories and just negative things that, her talking about self-blinding again. We're seeing this theme where people are intentionally deceiving themselves from the body language or facial expressions that are clearly in front of our eyes. And it's almost sort of symbolic that we as humans can love someone so much that we can literally blind ourselves. It's not something that comes naturally to anyone. You don't just look past someone's lies. It's something that you really have to work hard for. And it goes to show how much love was in her relationship.
Right. And you start to fall into this illusion, and before you know it, it's almost like you're losing your sense of self within the relationship, whereas you can't tell whether the partner is telling a lie or telling the truth. I think that starts to get to where it can be a tricky situation, especially since you're so unsure of yourself, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. So I provided 2 clips in response to Maria's questions. One of them has to do with trust, and another one has to do with understanding why her partner lies to her. Take a look. Do you trust your partner or your previous partner? And did you think that your partner had trusted you in the relationship?
I think we trusted each other to a certain point. We trusted each other until one of us found out something about the other. And then once you break that trust, it's hard to regain it. You can trust them again, but not in the same way that you did at first.
Right. Why do you think your past partner had lied to you?
I think maybe that he lied so we could still be okay. Like we could still be in good terms. And me not knowing the truth meant that I was kind of like, how do you say it? Like, if I didn't know the truth, I wasn't going to be disappointed in him. I wasn't going to want things to break off.
You know, AJ, I think it's really interesting how she talks about not leaving him, even if she were to find things out, and how he lied to her so that he wouldn't disappoint her. But overall, both parties knew that there was lies and deception involved, and yet they continued this. So it almost seems to me like a pattern was created. This is back to basic behavioral therapy. You know, if somebody is being taught often enough that their reward is still going to be present past a negative behavior, then they're going to continue to do this because now you've taught them that you're still going to give them what they want, even if they're not being kind to you. Which is what we're seeing in this case. There's a reinforcer here, you know, continuing the relationship with somebody who's not being honest with you and things like that. Someone who's being unfaithful, but knows that they can still come home. Things like that inject toxicity into a romantic relationship, which is something that we see a lot in Elena's case. Elena actually shared so many details regarding her past relationship that it was almost hard to pinpoint which direction we wanted to go. But one thing that was noticeable was the fact that lying became habitual in her previous relationship. And she mentions a lot of deception that she underwent. We can see that in this clip here.
He was just very secretive. He just, like I said, he would call me invasive. Like he wouldn't even tell me how old he was.
Oh, wow.
I don't really know what his reasons were.
And how long did it take for you to find out how old he was?
I still to this day do not know how old he is.
In this next clip, Elena has exhibited moral hypocrisy in which we explored. Please take a look.
When you recall your past relationship, how often do you think you guys lied or you experienced his lies on an average week?
I would definitely lie to him every day.
I'm not gonna lie, but when I heard Elena stating along the lines that she lies to her partner every day, it's like me dropping that skull emoji and just be like, damn, like, I can't even fathom how someone can be so truthful, such as Elena, you know? And what gets me is that her partner was the one to initiate the lies in the relationship, but I feel like she has to lie because she doesn't know that her partner, or she doesn't know when her partner lies in the relationship. And so it almost feels like a power dynamic type of thing where it's like your partner lies, okay, I'm gonna lie too. It's like a sort of like a domino effect where it switches one or the other.
Yeah, that reciprocity of you lying to me because I lied to you or vice versa. This is not something that is being taught in the same sense as Nadia and Charlie, where she's trying to teach him a lesson. This is more like, if you're not going to be completely honest with me, then I'm going to, have some things hidden as well. And that's also something that has been noted in a lot of research studies that suggests that reciprocity is the main reason for why people lie to each other. But there's another article that we looked at that I know mentioned how women tend to tell more white lies compared to men. However, they're less accepting of white lies than men. And I think it's really interesting how we got all of this feedback from couples and individuals. But at the end of the day, most people are still willing to stay in their relationships even past the point of lying and deception. One thing that I know Charlie mentioned was the fact that even if he were to find out if Nadia had been lying to him, he would most likely not leave her. And so back to the article that mentioned women are more likely to tell white lies and not be accepting of it. The proof is in the pudding. Charlie is gonna stay. Elena's hopefully gonna learn from her past, but if it doesn't, then this is again a continued pattern of this learned behavior.
Right. And I think it's pretty obvious based on all of our participants that they all admitted to lying at least once within the relationship, which is very telling. And it goes to show that I don't think there's a single person at all who has not told a lie before, because we all have lied before, and we learn from it, and hopefully we gain from it. And we take that wisdom and we utilize it not only within ourselves, but within our relationships and our future relationships that are to come.
Exactly. And, while that sounds great and everything, again, just to play devil's advocate, I think that decreasing the behavior of lying or deceiving your partner is something that's not going to happen overnight. I think people sometimes take years, while others might not ever change out of these behaviors. So it's interesting to hear everyone's background and everyone's challenges, but we still have to approach this topic with sensitivity, because this isn't something that can easily be managed. And it sounds like not telling a lie or not being deceitful would just be so easy, but if it was that easy, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and millions of people, wouldn't be experiencing the same problems in a different form. So with that being said, please stay tuned for part 2, in which we will discuss and dive deep into how to combat the problem of lying and deception, or at least what skills you can utilize or develop to be able to combat the lies or identify deception. So please stay tuned, and we'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.